Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip-hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7. Live on hot7025fm.com.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Cheryl Underwood, and you're tuned into the hottest news station on the planet, Hot 702.5.
Hi. Hey. What's up?
All your favorite artists.
Check it out. Say my name. DJ Khaled. This is Mila J. Bruno Mars.
On hot7025fm.com.
Hello and welcome to Showtime with Jordan Von Haslow and friends right here on Hot 702.5 FM Las Vegas. So happy to have you all joining us again this week and so excited to meet our next new friend. She was an animation director for Netflix's Tuca and Birdie, starring Tiffany Haddish and Ali Wong, as well as Sci-Fi's Magic Girl Friendship Squad. She was also an animator on an Emmy Award-winning episode of Broad City. Loved that show. Showtime's Our Cartoon President. Netflix's The Midnight Gospel. Also loved this show. Like literally, you've worked on every show that I love. And the Bleacher Report's Hero Ball. Welcome our new friend, Erica PEREZ. Hello, Erica.
Hello, happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. How are you doing? What are you doing? What are you up to? Everything's come to such a halt with the Writers Guild strike. How have you been keeping yourself busy?
Well, I got that new Zelda game, so I've just been binging hardcore. I recently got myself an iPad as an investment in me so that I can just sit down on the couch and draw.
Yeah.
Because that's been the thing that I just haven't had the opportunity to do very much, is go back to my drawing roots and just create.
Yeah, totally. Isn't that funny how that happens? You know, you like when you're a kid, you just dream of doing something for a living. And then once you have the job, you almost feel like you don't do it.
No, never. I'm drawing so much for other people now. It's like, when did I last doodle for myself? Do I even know how to draw? What?
So I want to learn. So you've done so much. You've worked on all these amazing shows. Talk to me just sort of about your journey. Like, were you a kid who always doodled and always did well in art class and then said, hey, maybe we should study this? Or talk to me about that.
Oh, yeah. Since kindergarten, the first one to line up for the finger painting, doodling all the time. I would get in so much trouble in school for handing in homework with like a border drawn around the assignment and then doing doodles all over the edges. It's like, Eric, you can't do this. Just a simple essay. That's all we want. It's like, but it needs embellishment. Yeah, since I was 4 years old, I would say I've been passionate about cartoons, and like my family too, I think. They love cartoons and would plot me in front of the couch. Like my mom's favorite story is, as soon as you could see, we put you on the couch to watch TV and you just ate it up. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good, but thank you, I guess.
Well, luckily it worked out, right?
Yeah.
What were you watching as a kid? What were your favorite shows as a kid?
The usuals. It's Looney Tunes, and the big one was Tom and Jerry, because that was my family's favorite also. Yeah.
What was the moment where you realized, oh, this is something that I could do as a career, or this is an option for something I could study in school? Like, when did that happen for you?
At 2 points, I guess. When I was 4, I would look at Chuck Jones's Tom and Jerry, beautiful, very sexy eyes, the motion, the animation. I'm like, I want to do that. I can't verbalize what that is, but I'm looking at it and I want that.
Right.
So then the first time it actually clicked, like, oh, it's animation, it's the way things move, was when I was about 12, 13, watching anime after school. It was Sailor Moon, and just watching the transformation sequence of from regular girl to superheroine when they move in space in like teal and pink colors. And I'm just like, oh my God, could I do that? I can do that maybe. So that was the spark.
That was the spark. Did you have like somebody like a mentor or an art teacher who kind of helped push you towards, okay, you want to go into animation, let's explore like classes in this so you can start learning like how it's actually done?
Well, the beautiful thing was that growing up in Bushwick, I went to public school, but like every art teacher is like, you know what, let's foster this. Let's give you some art books. Stay a little longer after class and work on this art. Just everyone that I met was so supportive. Every single art teacher, even art teachers I didn't have, like, I didn't attend their classes and they're like, hey, I heard about you. Like I had my 6th grade teacher held me from math class once to help her design her tattoo that she was going to get. I'm just like, okay. People like my art.
What was the image?
It was an octopus with moon and stars inside it. Very cute.
I love it.
But yeah, throughout high school, because I went to an arts high school, it was a little cleaner and easier to streamline into that path. And
which school did you go to? I went to an arts high school too, as well.
LaGuardia.
LaGuardia, okay. Well, like, did you study with Jose? Is that how you guys know each other?
No, we met at Cartoon President.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yes.
Got it. So you're studying at school and you're like, all right, I'm going to go into animation as a profession. So what was the next step? Did you go to college? Did you go into the workforce?
I mean, at the time, I didn't know it was, I don't know why this never hit. Like, I had never practiced animation before going to college. I was like, I don't know what this is called. It's illustration, I guess. So I almost applied to Pratt Institute for illustration. And then I saw it in the course book, like, oh, it's 2D animation, duh. So I went straight for that, just like straight shot. The first year, it was foundation classes. So we're getting pretty accustomed to like anatomy and color and light and forms and giving everyone a good basic education in what things actually look like. The following 3 years was just starting animation from scratch. Like I'd never touched it before. I'd never made a flip book.
Not even in school? Not even at LaGuardia?
No, never. It's surprising. My first flip book was actually at the Museum of the Moving Image.
Okay.
Yeah, where they have a little setup where you animate yourself. It's like, okay, I guess this counts. I guess, yeah.
What did you, so at this point, you're studying it. So you're like, okay, I'm going to build a career in this medium. Like, were you like, oh my goodness, I have ideas for all of these stories, etc., that I'm going to like get on a television? Or were you kind of like, oh my God, if I could only work for Nickelodeon? Or you're like, where was your head at the time?
Well, when I started, it was just like amazing. Like, oh, I'm like a god. I can think of a thing and I can create it and it just exists. It's fascinating. And then I'm like, okay, well, where do I want to go? What's the goal here? At that point, it's just, I want to be an animator, period. And before I knew it, it happened. So I'm like, okay, well, from here, what do I want? And Cartoon Network is always the big goal. But I haven't gotten there yet. I sort of did in a way, adjacent with the show Team Toon, but it was for the UK, Cartoon Network UK. So sort of.
That counts.
Kind of got there.
That counts.
Yeah.
So talk to me about animation, because I am least visual. Like I can't even like draw stick figures that like make sense. I was a music major. Talk to me just about animation and what it means to be an animator, because I know I've had conversations with our producer Jose about animation. I've kind of talked to him while he's worked on different projects. And I think, in my mind, it was just like, you're an animator. You do all the drawing, you color it, you do everything. But my understanding now is that it takes an entire village. So can you talk to me and talk to us just about like what the process of like putting together an animated piece looks like and who all has to touch upon each section?
First off, I would say that animation as a whole is a test in patience, because you have to take this one drawing and draw it thousands of times, hundreds of times, get intimately familiar with how a character feels, who they are as a person, how they move, how they think, and that dictates their performance. So it's like you're an actor embodying another person.
Right.
The process from start to finish is pretty long. Starts off with your writers. I guess for a TV show, you have your writers for a little bit. They come up with your episodes. Then you go to the sound person and they make a radio play with the actors based off the script. Then production will take the script and break it down into chunks for storyboard artists to board out the rough visuals of what they think it'll look like. And then it goes to the animators, and animators fill in the gaps and do the complete work of animating, coloring, lip syncing, which is when you get the audio and you have the characters' lips move to what the dialogue is.
Got it.
You send it off to the network to review, and you get the notes.
And they give you all kinds of notes.
You get your dreams back. And after a little bit of emotional abuse, then you come back and you're like, okay, let's fix it. Let's finish it. Do the last bits of touch up and sound, get it scored, and then edited together.
How much of, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like how much of like the voiceover actors, how much of what they bring to the table is reflected in how you animate the character?
It's like a dance. You're both working together to inform the performance. Like you go off what they do, but you have the chance to elevate it or subdue it if you want. But I would say elevate it. In a sense, at every stage, everyone is a little bit of a writer for the show or animation because they put their little input into it.
Right, that makes sense. So what was your first gig? Was your first gig while you were still in school, or did you graduate and pound the pavement, so to speak?
I got a job offer just before graduation, and sadly I couldn't take it because I had a beast of a thesis to finish, because no one told me that a 7-minute film would, be impossible. As soon as I finished, I continued on with my internship at Ogden Blake Studios, and then got hired there for a while at the show Ugly Americans.
Yeah.
And as soon as I was done there, I felt so uncomfortable not knowing and not having experience that I was like, I need to hoard all the jobs like some sort of dragon on a pile of work, just absorb as much as possible. So I was driving myself nuts, working 2 or 3 jobs at a time somehow, just like a TV studio job and then freelance at night, or like dog sitting, and just as much as possible of everything that I could fit. I just did not want to be alone with my thoughts.
So in those early days, like Ugly Americans, and what were you doing? What specifically was your role in those on those shows?
Junior animator, just getting acquainted with the pipeline and how everything works, and getting to know people in the studio, meeting directors, and just learning how the whole process works. But basically, sit down and in between a shot, which is when the directors or lead animators give you like only the most important poses set up, and then you fill in the in-betweens between the it speaks for itself, in-betweens, emotions in between the actions.
Were there ever, working in television, working in live action can be, like you said, it's like a trial in patience and can be tedious. Was there ever a moment where you're like working like these long days and you're kind of drawing things that are very similar to each other over and over and over again, that you're like, God, maybe I should have been a dentist?
Many nights at 4 a.m. Just staying up late, and I feel like sometimes I have a couple focus issues, so I was just like pace around, and so many ideas in my head. I'm just like, oh God, which one do I put down? Which one do I commit to pen and paper? So a lot of ruminating, and then it's like, oh, there it is. Now I don't have time, so now we just go. So I would be working all night, getting it done, and then after, it actually took me a while to get to that point, but like 10 years in, I was like, dang, why can't I just like go make candles or like sew something?
So your first job was on Ugly Americans, which is a show that I did watch and I really enjoyed. What was it like? Talk to me the night that your first episode aired. Were you back on the sofa with the parents and like, all right, here we go? Talk to me about that moment that you first see your work on television.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, I still can't believe it. I do it and I'm just like, this is what I do for a living. This is this is so cool. I made that. What? That moment.
Did you contact like all the various teachers who were like supportive, like, hey, guess what? Friday at 8.
Oh no, I didn't know when it would air. So I blasted it all over the internet. I'm like, hey, someone took a photo of my name in the credits. Oh my God, there it is. But then I eventually played it with my parents and they're like, Mommy, what? Mira eso. Like, oh, thanks. You did that. But I did that. We did that together.
I love it. I love it. So you're hoarding all these jobs and you're trying to just like suck everything in. What was the first time where you kind of made the jump from the leap from junior animator to like animator and like you're like just kind of talk to me just about how everything kind of progressed.
Well, that's always such a big moment for an animator where suddenly you have the trust of your higher ups. And I feel like I did a lot of freelance in that time period. So you're basically just the boss from beginning to end. But in a studio setting, it felt really good that I would get work done and it was good and it was fast. So much so that the people who were my higher ups there, who were directors eventually at their own studios were like, no, come here. You come here. We want you here. And I would say with Mike Wartella was probably the first big moment. That was on Cartoon Network's Mad, doing some animation there. And it was a really tiny crew. It was like 4 people. It was three gals, 1 guy, and we were all animating for a couple months. And eventually it's like, okay, now you're going to do backgrounds and you're going to edit these things together. It's like, oh, I have more responsibility. You trust me? I can start a whole shot and design it myself. What? So it's that moment that just like made me feel shiny and powerful, I guess. It's like,
and then you started doing it and it's like, be careful what you wish for, right?
Yes. Oh no, more responsibility. Oops, did I want this? Yes, I did. I love it.
Has there ever been an opportunity that you've been in where you maybe felt like you bit off more than you could chew, or you were like, oh my God, how in the hell am I going to pull this off?
More than I could chew. Yes. I was working a day job and then was like, oh, I also have this freelance project. It was doing some animation to put into a strongman documentary. And I mean, it turned out great, but at that point I was like, I can't get this done. I can't do it. And that had been a real turning point for me because I was so bad at saying no for the longest time that at this point I was like, wow, I should have said no to this or done something else to just help myself a little more. So I think that was the first time that I got people to help me out, and I got an assistant animator and I was like, here, I'll key everything out. I have as much as I can do. Take it, finish it, please. And they did an amazing job. And I was like, oh, I'm delegating.
You're like, oh, who knew? Who knew?
I don't control everything. I can just pass stuff off. It felt so good, but it was it was really hard to let go because sometimes you're working on a thing so hard and it's like, if I give it to someone else, I'm taking control away. But that's that's part of the animation process, is you have to share the load.
But that's part of like all the processes, right? Like we're just in terms of just creating content in general, right? If you're gonna really do it, it really takes a village, and you need to relinquish control to other folks so you can stay focused. And otherwise you end up with like starring, directed by, written by, shot by, like,
and then just asleep for a week afterwards because you're so exhausted and burnt out. It really does take a village. That's what I loved about my most recent job at Bleacher Report on Hero Ball. The environment was so good, and everyone helping each other. And it's like, oh, I finished my shots. Can I help someone else? And just everyone running in to be like, yes, I'll help you. Or no, let me. Everyone just so kind.
That's really cool. Community. But Turner's a really fun. Well, I guess it's not Turner anymore, but Turner's a really fun place. I worked at Time Warner for a long time. Ooh, and just in general, like I don't know what it's like now post, AT&T, post Discovery, but I just remember everyone at Turner was just always really cool and really like, it was a fun, and it was a nice environment.
Very powerful.
Tell me about Hero Ball. I'm not familiar with Hero Ball, but I never follow, even when I was at Turner, I never, followed, like, I'm not into sports. So I like the Bleacher Report. It was like that thing.
I'm also not into sports. You will be hard pressed to find an animator that is into sports.
What do you think that is? Do you think that there's like some direct correlation between like artistic skill versus like athletic skill?
I find.
Is it a gene?
No, it might be, because a lot of the creative people that I know, like none of them, they didn't really do a lot of sports. It's just like maybe artists are like a different type of nerd genre.
Yeah.
But some of them do. Like I did soccer in high school, and it's like, this was fun. This was the hardest I've ever run in my life. Powerful, beefy thighs to go with my strong animator arm.
There you go.
But no, I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, so tell me about this project at Bleacher Report. What exactly? Because I'm not familiar with it at all.
So it is an anime-inspired take on basketball, which I know nothing about, but now I know some players' names, and I'm like, I see them on TV, and I'm like, oh, that guy, I drew that guy. But we animate the episodes, but we have no idea what any of it means. We're like, oh, this person was mad at this person and dunking on that person. And then after.
Also, are these like little shorts that are kind of like recaps of like what happened like this week in sports, that type of a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So usually we end up watching YouTube videos that explain all the Easter eggs that we animated and knew nothing about, to explain it right back to us. Getting an education in sports, pretty cool.
That's really fun. Are you still on? Is that something that's still ongoing, or?
I mean, hopefully in the fall it comes back, but it seemed to get a good reception. So fingers crossed. The way things are going right now, you never know. But
yeah, right. This is true.
Yeah.
Talk to me about being an animation director, because that's kind of like the role that you found yourself in most recently on quite a few projects. What does that mean? What does an animation director do?
Well, an animation director is sort of like quality control. They will take the animation that the team has done and make sure that it is held up to a certain standard that is cohesive and is working visually, and that it is done on time and looking good.
Yeah.
We hand out shots, and through the process, we get to know the animators, and we start giving them work that is maybe better formatted to them. So like if you have someone who's really good at action shots, you would throw one of those at them. It's people work.
Right.
Along with technical work.
Got it. In doing that, do you miss doing the actual animation, or do you like bossing people around?
I like all parts of it. Whenever I direct a thing, I always miss the animation because you get so busy, you don't get to do a lot of it. You might have a couple shots on your plate to do. You get, well, the benefit of being a director is you get to pick your own shots. So you get the choice cuts for yourself or the easy shots if you want. I go for whatever is weird and quirky. But whenever I'm doing that, I miss animating so much. So going back to Hero Ball to just animate was relaxing and soothing. And I'm like, oh my God, someone just gives me the stuff and I just have to do it and then hand it back. And I don't have to think about anything else. But in the directing part, it's also really good to have like the trust of like a network or your supervisors or the producer, and that your opinion counts for something and that you can put a lot of yourself in it and make decisions. Yeah, I don't know. It's also getting to know people. Like, I have very much a caregiver vibe to me. So I love getting to know people who are working with me on the team. And it's like, it's not like being a therapist, but it's like a counselor. Like, talk to me. What's going on? Are you able to get where you need to be? What do you need? How can I help you?
Yeah. Would you equate it like to being similar to kind of directing an actor? Like, here's what I need to get out of you. So how can I inspire you to have you help you give me what I need?
Yes, exactly.
So I do like a lot of those like decisions entail. Like, for example, if you're working with an animator and they're not quite giving you what you feel you need or what you feel is appropriate to like share with the showrunner, how do you handle that, or how do you manage that?
Well, sometimes you'll have a person who has a very strong opinion about what they think should be in the shot. And I usually hate having to turn those things down because I love when people throw ideas at me, because I feel like things work better when you work together. And I'm always very open to suggestions. But sometimes if a thing is not quite hitting right, it's your prerogative as director to take it and get it there. If after a couple notes and takes of them taking it back and trying to fix it, they don't get it, it's like, okay, well, move on, go to the next
You're
thing.
fired.
No, never.
Off with his head.
Try a different shot. Maybe this was just not the one for you right now. Go to a different shot. I'll take this one. I'll finish it up and get it where I want it. Or I'll go in and like put a couple notes and draw overs of what something maybe should look like, and then they'll take it back. But ultimately, it's on the director to make sure it looks correct.
Got it. That makes sense. Do you have a favorite project, like one project that you worked on that was just like, oh my goodness, if this would go on and on and on and on, like for 30 years, like The Simpsons, I would work on this project until I no longer could move my fingers?
That would have been Tuca and Birdie, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just such a loving and positive environment, and the characters, you just fall in love with them so hard. They are the equivalent of the team, I think. Like, everyone has a little bit of them in them. And just the ability to make it your own and imbue your own ideas onto it and make it as silly as possible. Like, that was always the prerogative on the show, is like, just make it weird. Just whatever you can think of or can't even think of. Think outside the box. Just throw it. Just go. Love it.
Yeah. How did you land on that project?
That was a referral from a friend from college. They were looking for directors for a couple episodes, and I did the interview, and apparently Lisa Hannawalt knew another previous boss of mine. It's like, oh, I love him. It's like, oh my God, it's the tiniest world. Everybody knows each other. But it was between me and a couple people, and they couldn't do it at the time. It's like, I'm available. I'm here. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm going to try it. And it turned out to be one of the greatest experiences. So I'm sad to see that show not renewed.
Yeah. It happens though, right? The best of shows, the best. And what sucks about it, but it's like the nature of TV, is that there's always so many random decisions about why things are renewed or why they're not renewed. And half the time it has nothing to do with anything other than like a cranky SVP somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta try and pitch stuff regardless. Otherwise, you'll just be afraid of getting it made and cut. But at least it will have moved forward and existed.
Totally. Have you pitched any of your own ideas?
Not yet. I've been working on that this past year in trying to like brew up more creativity in the brain. Just like, what things do I like? I love spooky stuff, like very Scooby-Doo type cute spooky things. I love duos of like strong women and their friendships, which is why Tuca and Birdie was great. Magical Girl Friendship Squad too. It's like I keep landing on these jobs that are just like two strong women.
Broad City. Well, they're strong-ish.
In their own minds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to just take that and make something like that for myself, because I keep doing it for other people. It's like, why can't I do that?
Is it difficult though? Because like things can be creatively draining, right? Especially, you're working on this show and you're living in this particular world and you're like thinking about it all day. Is it difficult for you to then like shut that off and say, you know what, I'm just going to sit at home for 2 hours tonight and just like think of my own thing? Or is it difficult? Or are you kind of like stuck in the world that you're in because you're really living in it?
It was pretty impossible before the pandemic, actually. Because I think it was just a shift in mindset is what it took. I was just all in on everything I would work on, and it would be my life, and maybe doodle fan art of it on the side and never really do anything for myself. So then suddenly being at home and having all this time, I was like, I need to take better care of myself and my brain and my creative ideas and nurture them, because who else is going to do it for me?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Were you on it? Talk to me about just that, the pandemic. Were you on a project during pandemic, or like when pandemic happened, or were you in between projects and then all of a sudden it's like, stay home?
I had just wrapped on Cartoon President like a few weeks before, maybe 2 weeks, as I was getting ready to take a trip to Japan. And it's like, hey, no, you're not. I was like, this was the trip of a lifetime. I was like, I've never been to Japan. You know what? I'm going to save up. I'm going to go for a month. My first time on the Eastern Hemisphere. It's going to happen. No, it's not.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess it's probably a good thing that your trip wasn't a few weeks beforehand. Otherwise, that month-long trip would have turned into like a year long.
Yeah. So
I think about that
for a reason.
Totally. There's someone I know here in Vegas who she and her husband, they go on cruises all the time, and they were on a cruise when the world shut down. And so they were just floating for like months.
Sounds like a nightmare. I hope it was a fun.
Floating for like months before finally they were like cleared to come in. Yeah, I don't know. So when shutdown happened, was it kind of like, because my experience for shutdown, and I shouldn't say it because pandemic was very, very traumatic for a lot of people, but I enjoyed shutdown so much because I didn't have anything to do. I still had, I had this radio show. And so it was like, no one was expecting me to be anywhere. And so I was just like waking up every day saying like, what do I want to do today? Write a pop song. Okay, I'm writing a pop song today. And then the next day, what do I want to do today? I never read that book. I'm just going to spend the day reading that book. And I just felt so invigorated. And I felt like just like I was able just to kind of enrich myself in a way that, in normal circumstances with all of the demands of jobs and, your social life and all, and, you couldn't do. What was that experience like for you?
Oh gosh. As a professional homebody, I was just like, this is just another Tuesday, I guess. Like everyone trying to get acclimated, and I'm like, this is just what I always do. So it wasn't a huge shift. The big change was with directing, because that's when I started in April, and suddenly being thrust into control and having to talk to a bunch of people on video chats. Like, so we're gonna ignore that the world is on fire for a second, and we have to finish this cartoon. So buck up, everyone. Just do your best. Take a break if you need it.
How was your team? Like, were some people really freaking out, or was everyone kind of going with the flow?
It was, morale was pretty low. I mean, when you're trying to just do your job and there's an undercurrent of death and fear and disease
and uncertainty.
Yeah. It's just like, what are we doing? So we're just like, tunnel vision, just keep going ahead, just do the thing. But I mean, it was very trial by fire, and we got through it, and it turned out beautiful. But everyone was very exhausted by the end. Like, all right, everybody, let's just take a nap.
Did you do anything creatively on your own during that time of shutdown?
No, sadly. That's my whole issue. That's why I got the iPad to sit down and just create. No, it was like nonstop, hopping from director gig to director gig. And it's a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight on you. And you kind of burn out pretty quickly if you're not taking care of yourself. So I was like, all right, you know what? I've been working on this first job until like 1 a.m. I can't do that. So the next job, I was like working until 9 p.m. I'm like, no, I don't think I can do that. So the next one, I'm like, you know what? I'm leaving at 6 p.m. with everybody else. Yeah.
Damn it.
They can start again tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we'll start fresh. We'll go. That's okay. That's fine. And that has been the best thing. And if you can do it, I recommend it for everybody.
Well, have you found that you're more effective? I mean, because I know for myself that like when you start really putting in those hours, like those really long hours, I find that I'm not as effective or as productive as I think I am being, because it's like, yeah, but like I have no brain cells. So I'm just kind of like rereading the same thing 3 times because I can't absorb it.
Exactly the same way in animation. You could be chugging away on a shot late into the night, and I'm like, why am I not getting this? This guy just got to like flick his finger and it's not happening. And then you go to sleep and you come back and it takes you 2 seconds and it's like, why was that so hard? It wasn't, you just needed to rest.
Yeah, rest is very, very important. I love it. I love it. So what's next for you? What do you see? Do you have anything booked coming up, or are you now just looking for the next thing?
Well, I'm in there with all the other animators, throwing the portfolio to the wind and hoping that something comes back. But at the moment, I'm sort of in the works trying to become an adjunct professor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've wanted to teach since I was a kid. And then as an adult, I discovered I have social anxiety. And I was like, can I stand in front of a room and like shape the mind for the future?
I find that tends to be kind of like a common thread between visual artists. Like I remember as a music student in high school, I remember like, the music kids, we were all serious about our craft. The musical theater people, exactly. The musical theater people were just like over the top and dramatic. The dancers all cried, but the visual artists would just be like huddled together, like sitting in a corner with each other, like totally not.
Life, yeah.
So with that social anxiety, have you conquered it, or do you see becoming an adjunct being part of like the step of, hey, let's be more outward and getting yourself to be more outward because you'll be forced to, because it's your job and you clearly take your jobs very, very seriously.
Yeah. I mean, that was also part of being a director, is like, you have opinions. I thought I didn't, but I'm like, no, I have them. I have something to say, something to share, knowledge to give. So get over this fear. I mean, not get over it because it lives with you, but conquer it, make it your friend. Be like, okay, this is scaring the crap out of me. There are a bunch of people staring at me, but we got to get it done. So just keep going. Just fake it till you make it, but it's also part of you. So it's putting on a different hat for the day.
Yeah.
This is my big girl hat. I'm going to talk to a bunch of people. And I mean, I've done crits before with students that I never met. I had nothing to do with them beforehand. And I just jumped in. It's like, okay, well, I've seen your film. This is great. You can change this, maybe do this. This is working well. It's like, wait a second. If that's what the job is, you can do that. But then you actually get to know the student and get to like foster their abilities. It's like, that sounds amazing. I want to do that.
It's nice to give back, right? Especially because you've been doing this for a while and you've learned a lot. And I'm sure that there's things that like you wish you might have known 8 years ago that would have made certain jobs or certain tasks or even just transitions so much easier.
Yeah.
So speaking in that vein of just you having done this for a long time, I actually just read a really interesting article in the LA Times, and it was about animation and kind of as it relates to streaming. And it's something that, you know, all other aspects of the entertainment industry are dealing with, you know, now that streaming is sort of contracting, right? Like, you know, everyone was like all on the streaming board, then then COVID happened. And so everyone went all in on streaming and they're just like, yes, buy. And now they're like, yeah, not so much. And we only want to do things that are like known IP. And remember that show that we bought from you 3 years ago that we shot? We're actually just going to shelve it and turn it into a tax write-off. What do you see in terms of animation, in the industry of animation, from the time that you first, you know, kind of where you first began working after school to now? Like, how have you seen things change, whether positively or negatively?
Well, when I first started college, we were in the era of, Disney is not going to make animated 2D features anymore, and that's just going down the drain and it's not going to happen. But then it came back. We had Princess and the Frog. So it's viable. I mean, Spider-Man now, there's a lot of VFX and 2D things in there. But when I graduated, it was a few years after the 2008 recession. And so many of the people slightly older than me just did not have jobs for a long time. And it was terrifying. So I felt very blessed that I came in just at the end of that when stuff was starting to pick back up.
Right.
And since then, it had been fairly steady with the streaming services up and running, just a little animation here and there, things like animation, high def animation definition, that whatever it's called, the Fox animation block, like Liquid TV, stuff like that.
Oh, ADHD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Things like that, giving more power to animator. It's like, great, this is the new dawn of the animator. We have gainful employment. This is great. And then pandemic hits and it's like, we can't do live action things right now. Let's put it all in on animation. Hooray. more employment than you can even handle. And then the bubble bursts.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we can go to live action again, and all the IPs that we had, like you were saying. So it's been, I don't want to say devastating, but just disheartening.
Yeah.
Just how quickly it can be pulled out. The rug can be
the rug, like from under you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People losing their shows that were on there. It's like, I thought this was supposed to be a permanent thing. You just exist forever, but apparently you can just get rid of a show just like that.
It is disheartening. Do you find, or have you found that folks, particularly like the networks, don't necessarily understand animation and just like the process, like in terms of like, again, like you say, your trial of patience, the fact that it does take a time to, versus say like a live action show, you do like a couple of rehearsals and a couple of blockings and then you film it and you move on. Whereas like to put together 30 minutes worth of animation is a process that requires a whole lot of people. Do you find that sometimes that maybe a lot of the powers that be don't really understand what needs to happen in order to execute a high quality show?
I find that oftentimes the people who are working on these shows have done more live action than animation. So the notes they give are that it feels like they don't consider that just changing one character's like hair color maybe could have a ripple effect down the line that will have to take hours and hours of human power to correct.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of, as some people put it, massaging of the animation that you have to do when it's just not working right. You can finesse it forever if you wanted to. You just have to find the time to say, no, that's it. It's done. Get it out. But you can always dip your toes back in and change a thing, which is rough. You don't want someone who doesn't understand animation to do that, because the repercussions are many hours and many scenes cut. We had that happen where we had actually multiple times, where an entire scene that was written had to be cut, and it was a climactic scene.
Oh no.
There was so much action. It was beautiful. The episode then didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it had to happen because legal teams have to make sure that things are okay. But it's an
well, you'd think they'd do that at the script stage as opposed to act. Just saying.
You would think. No, it's rough when it happens down the line. There are times when things have to happen, but sometimes it just can't be helped that it has to happen further down the line. And
so it was like just totally cut. Like there wasn't time to like alter it and like. Oh, that's so horrible. Thing.
Beautiful animation that no one will ever see. I mean, that's kind of the life of people who work on pilots. Those things are in production for a long time. And you work hard on it and you have a whole episode of a beautiful thing made, but they never put it on TV. They never put it on the web. It just goes in a folder to die or await someday when someone's like, hey, we still have this. We can put it up. which is the hope that someone will buy it. But a tricky thing.
Yeah, that's just. Have you ever had? That's so disheartening. I'm just thinking about that. That makes me sad, especially somebody I love story. And so it's like this is like the climax, and it's like wah wah wah.
Yeah.
Is there any that's airing now that you would love the opportunity to work on that you haven't worked on before?
Something that's airing now that I would love to work on?
Yeah.
The Amazing World of Gumball. It's so...
That's a fun show too.
Stunning. Just the mix of styles, the 3D, the 2D, the like paper cutout style. It's just a beautiful mishmash and so well thought out with adorable characters. It's just like, oh, that's the dream. I saw a job post for it for season 5 ages ago, and I'm like, why didn't I apply for that? Because it's in the UK. I would have to move across the sea for it, but
well, why not?
I mean, now that we know that we can do remote work, maybe.
Yeah, but even why not? Why not move to the UK 20 weeks?
Yeah, why not? I'm
It's an adventure.
Dang, I gotta go places. I gotta see things. What's the furthest I've been? I went to Canada. I went to the Dominican Republic. That's as far as I've been.
You know what I'm saying? And that's like the upper Midwest and like lower Florida. So like you didn't get to Japan. I say go for it.
One day I'm gonna do it. I swear. That's the dream.
So what are you watching now? What shows are you watching?
I honestly can't remember because I binge things so hard. I'll go through like 10 shows in a week.
Isn't that horrible? I do the same thing. And then they're like, did you see that show? It's like, yeah, but I don't necessarily remember what happened on it because that was 4 shows ago.
Yes. And then it's like, oh, the main character. And I was like, what was their name? I'll end a series, like just finished it. And I never caught what their name was. I'm like, oh, the girl and the guy, they do the thing. It's like, I should have been paying more attention. It just like, it comes in and out when you're ingesting them so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you ingesting anything at the moment?
Bob's Burgers.
Okay.
Yeah. And home movies. Home movies I had seen as a kid.
I've never seen home movies.
Home movies it was something that was made with like early flash animation and like heavy boils, which is like when you draw a thing over and over again. So it looks like it's moving, but it's just a still, really.
Uh-huh.
Just very quirky. Same voice actor, John H. Benjamin, in there.
Yeah.
Just funny because then because they work together in Bob's Burgers. Sorry. It's my cat.
Kitty cat?
Yeah. Yeah, H. John Benjamin is in that show also. So they had the voice actor from Home Movies do a guest voice on Bob's Burgers. It's like, oh
fun.
Voice actor reunion. Yeah, because there's so many seasons. And at this point, it's like, do I want to invest in a show that I know is going to end on a cliffhanger or a show that's going to just not have an ending?
That's the worst, isn't it? Like when you get all invested in a show and then it's like, yeah, we're not returning. And so you're just like,
all my love and attention that I gave you and you're not going to repay it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the one.
And there's a lot of episodes. How many seasons are they on now?
Like 8 or something like that?
8, and it's like a traditional broadcast where they do like 22 episodes a year. Yeah. So that's a lot of catching up to do. Because like there's shows that I never watched that, and it's so funny how we've been sort of like, we talk about like binging things now. We've been trained to like get used to binging 10 episodes, 6 episodes, 13 episodes. And there are a handful of like broadcast shows that I never started watching for whatever reason. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should watch it. It's like, but 22 times 7, that's like the television version of War and Peace, like do I want to?
No, it's great though. It's hallelujah, big old backlog. Love it. I was just watching The Owl House. I finished that Disney Plus show. So adorable.
Is it?
There's 3 seasons, but the first season is like 20 episodes. The second season is 20 episodes, but it should have been 40 with how much content they packed in there, because I guess maybe they didn't know if they were going to get another season. And then the third season is 3 doubly long episodes. So it's like, oh gosh, it looked like something happened each season to like completely blow up the process. This show is so good. It could have had so many more seasons to explore this young Hispanic witch discovering magic.
I'll have to check it out. Did it end with a proper finale?
It did.
Okay, well, that's good.
Beautiful. It's satisfying. I was like, thank goodness. Thank you.
I'll definitely check it out. I wish we could just keep on going and going and going. We have to like do coffee or something but unfortunately we're like out of time here on the show.
No.
Do you keep like a public Instagram, or do you keep someplace where we can follow you?
Yes, my Instagram that I made a long time ago at Eributt, ERIBUTT.
Okay, is that like a childhood nickname or something?
Yes. That's where I keep. It used to be things of like, look at my donut. It's so cute. Look at my breakfast. But now it's like, ooh, I'm drawing now. So look at my poopy doodles. Look at the plant that I drew that's in my bedroom. It's me exploring colors and trying to figure out what artist I am, what my stuff looks like, what my artistic identity is.
Well, I can't wait to check it out. And I thank you, Erica Perez, for joining me this week. It's been fun. Thank you all for joining us, and I can't wait to chat with you next week for another episode of Showtime with Jordan Von Haslow and Friends right here on 702.5 FM Las Vegas. And don't forget, you can download the Hot 702.5 FM app and listen to the show in real time. And please check out hot702.5fm.com.